right, so now we're live.
We're live.
We're live.
We hope it won't be too buffery, but, here we are.
Okay.
We're going to try again.
We're just going to do this, and we're going to pretend it's working. Okay?
One person hung in there.
So, if it's not working...
We're sorry.
We're sorry. But if it's not working, we're not really sorry, because then you didn't see this. Right?
Right.
So, so there.
So, we had a busy weekend celebrating the twins' birthday. They turned 20.
Benjamin and Thomas are 20.
20. And then, of course, yesterday was Resurrection Sunday, and we didn't get any devotions recorded. We did get to work on a song that we'll try to get up soon.
We actually recorded 2 songs.
We did?
We did.
What was the other song? Oh, the band. Right, but that was just the band.
Yeah. But still, okay. We recorded it.
So, yeah. We played around with some music yesterday. And so we didn't get devotions done. So instead of not having a devotion today, we decided we would come in and try to do one live. So, hey, Jillian, thank you for letting us know it's working. So we're going to try to do this quickly. So,
why quickly?
Because we're going to run out of live. People aren't going to maybe stick around if we're choppy.
That's probably true.
Stop it.
Sorry. All right. So we're going to do the devotion for today. We're doing it live, like she said.
Like I said.
I do want to tell you, I've always worried as kids get older. Like when you're doing cakes and stuff like that, it's like, how do you get, nobody's ever tried to put 50 candles on my cake.
I can try to do that
Maybe
this year.
Maybe you could stop doing stuff.
I want to be able to see the chats.
Why?
I don't know, so that if Frank wanted to actually say something more than cue Jeopardy music, we could have responded to him. Go ahead. 50 candles. But next month we're going to put on 51.
We're not, actually. I just thought it was really clever for the twins' cakes. Instead of doing...
I was tired. Shush.
Instead of doing 20...
They had 2.
We did 2. And that was 2 in the tens place and none in the ones place. So it was 20.
Yeah, it was.
See?
Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
Everybody knows now.
Everybody knows.
Awesome.
The nice thing when we do these where we record them and then we put them together later
This
is
all gets edited.
we can take all this out.
But lucky you.
Yeah, and so it's a different camera too, and I know the quality is not as great as the other one, but you know.
Yeah. So, go.
So we're going to read the devotion today. I don't have a whole lot of graphics and stuff to come up and show you what we're reading, so we'll just pay attention. Okay? You want to take notes? Write this stuff down.
But he'll be 51, G.
Fine. And now you know how long the lag is between... Frank says the video's a bit choppy, but audio is fine.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So, yeah. All right, good. Thank you, Frank. Anyway, take notes, because I'm not putting it on the screen, so you can't rewind it back to... Oh, I thought that was a frustrated, not a... Yeah. Yeah, anyway, take notes. You're very distracting.
Today's devotion is from the Institute for Creation Research. They have given us permission to use these for our devotion time, and we are very grateful for that. Today's devotion comes from 2 Peter 3, verse 13. Nevertheless, we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. Take it away.
2 Peter 3:13.
Sorry, sir.
Take it away.
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add. Do you have anything to add? Anyway, okay, so we'll just read. This one was written by Dr. Henry Morris II. And it goes, let's see, the cosmos, or the cosmos, as Sega used to say, billions and billions of stars, consists of all things. Every system, every structure, every organism, every process, everything in heaven and earth. In heaven and on earth. Cosmology is the system and study of the whole cosmos. Okay, so cosmos, everything. Logi, study of. Biology is the study of bios. So if you're interested in history about people, you read biology. Right?
Biology is science.
I know, I was being silly.
Don't do that.
It's like I threw it for a loop. In his final epistle, I thought this was funny, actually. We read this today, and I thought...
Yeah, see, he got a sneak peek, not fair.
I did. We normally do these ahead of time, but I read this one earlier. I just think it's funny in his final epistle. It's Peter. He wrote 2. So, anyway. Frank said it was better until I told that joke. Okay. Anyway, in his final epistle, the Apostle Peter outlines 4 different cosmologies. One is false, and the other 3 are each true, but at different times in history. The false cosmology is that of evolutionary uniformitarianism, the doctrine taught by latter-day intellectuals who will scoff, and this again is from 2 Peter chapter 3, where is the promise of his coming? All things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. So, taking a break now, evolutionary obviously means going from simple forms to more complex forms. That's evolution is about the alleged progression of complexity in
the appearance
in nature.
of being better.
Yeah. But uniformitarianism, and that's what this is referring to in 2 Peter 3, is the promise of his coming, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Uniformitarianism is the belief that the things we witness today have always happened at exactly as we witness them today throughout history. Which, it sounds reasonable. Uniformitarianism is where you get things like when you look at rock layers, you go, well, each layer is like a year, right? So you have hundreds of thousands of layers. That must mean hundreds of thousands of years. But that's pretty easy to combat because you've got... So the example goes like this. If you had space aliens who came down and they landed at a high school, right? And they got a whole bunch of ninth graders and they measured how tall they were. and they found the average height was 56 inches, right? And then they came back a year later and they measured them, and the average height was 57 inches as 10th graders. And then they came back a year later and they measured the 11th grades, and they were all 58 inches. And they came back a year later and they measured the seniors, and the average height was 59 inches. They might conclude that humans grow at the rate of an inch a year, which means that 59 years ago, these humans must be 59 years old, right? Because they're 59 inches tall, and they started at zero. Well, obviously, all of those are false. But when you take the processes and try to create history out of them, you end up with conclusions that are absurd.
Mm-hmm.
So uniformitarianism, you can't take processes we observe today and just assume that they're the same for all time.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Dr. Moore says. This is altogether wrong. And he cites the first cosmos, or the first creation, being the pre-flood world. The first cosmos, the heavens and earth that were, quote, of old, and quote is from 2 Peter still, for chapter 3. The world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. That is, that, he continues, the primeval cosmos, in which everything that he had made was very good, from Genesis 1, was destroyed in the waters of the great flood. So, obviously, there was only one great flood. So if we look at the remnants of that one great flood, it doesn't signify a process. You can't take that and extrapolate from it, because it's a one-time event,
mm-hmm.
right? You can't assume that if I was trying to think of a good example. If a meteor struck Russia in the early 1900s, right? You can't assume that a meteor strikes everywhere all the time from a single event. You can't extrapolate it. It's just a one-time event, and the Great Flood was that way too. Moving on, the present cosmos, the heavens and the earth which are now, are reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. Again, 2 Peter chapter 3. And this present evil world, which is what Paul calls it in Galatians 1, was to last many a long year. But the day of the Lord will come, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up.
Okay.
It's a very optimistic look at the future.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. A great noise. Burning up.
Yeah. But then, out of the ashes of the old corrupt world, so to speak, and that would be the world from the flood until now, God will make a new and incorruptible world. We, according to his promise, writes Peter again, look for new heavens and a new earth wherein dwells righteousness. That cosmos, or that created order, that everything, will continue forever. The new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord in Isaiah. So that's, we're in a transition period, if you will, from the flood until the end. But at the end of history, if you will, I guess, the promise from God is that he'll remake everything. He'll remake it all perfect. We talked a little bit about this yesterday at church.
Right.
If you read the book of Revelation, it seems, and Dr. John Morris, another one of the scientists at ICR, has asserted that what you see in Revelation is kind of an undoing of what you saw in Genesis with the flood. That what God is doing in the first part of Revelation with the seals and the trumpets and all of that is reversing the effects of the flood. So where there were mountains and things like that formed during the flood, in Revelation you see the high places laid low and the valleys exalted. You see what seems to be an undoing of all of that geological activity that took place at the flood, which kind of makes an interesting sort of sense. You go from a perfect creation to the fall, so then the creation is cursed. You go from the fall through the flood, and at the flood the whole thing is just destroyed and sort of retooled and all of that. And then fast forward, it looks like what God's doing is undoing that and taking us back to sort of the pre-flood, post fall period. And then at the end of Revelation, after the 1,000 year with the new heavens, the new earth, the new Jerusalem, we're back at the perfect created order again. So it's a very symmetrical view of creation history.
Well, that kind of goes along too with. It seems appropriate for God to do something. It seems poetic,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of poetry that we can find, various forms of poetry throughout the Bible, and that just seems like another moment of His doing.
I think that's really insightful, actually.
Woo! Bonus for mom.
I think that's really insightful because, some people look at Genesis chapter 1, for example, in the creation account, and they say, well, it's a very poetic. It's Hebrew poetry is parallel, and the Hebrew poetry doesn't rhyme, it's structurally based. So you say one thing and then you say it a second time. That's a poetic thing. So you say, the Proverbs are full of this. I could pull one up.
Verily, verily.
Yeah. So like if you go to, I don't know, random Proverbs chapter, and I just went to Proverbs chapter 30, we'll see one. And that's maybe a bad one. Let's go back to the actual Proverbs proper, if you will. So Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That's two ways of saying the same thing. Listen to God, trust in God, don't trust in yourself. Both of those say the same things. Be not wise in your own eyes, fear the Lord. It's two ways of saying the same thing. That's one form of Hebrew poetry, is that parallelism. Another is what's called a chiasm, and that's kind of what we were doing with the creation, where you like, a lot of times to talk about poetry in English, we do rhyming schemes, right? So A B A B, right? Or
A B B A.
Or A B B B A, except one less B.
Mm-hmm.
A B
B A B C B A.
Yeah, that is where you get into chiasm, where you think of it like an outline, where you indent and then unindent. So
right.
you go perfect world, fall, flood, Revelation, undoing the flood, undoing the fall, perfect world again. That's a chiastic structure. So people look at Genesis and there's a thing called the framework hypothesis, which says, well, since the creation kind of looks like a chiasm, because you have three things created and then three things filled, fill space, or create the space and then fill it with planets, create the earth and then fill it with, or create the seas and then fill it with a thing, and then create the ground and fill it with a thing. That, well, it's obviously poetry, but what you were saying about God and poeticness, I just think that's his nature. His nature is very structural, and he acts out of his nature. So, in other words, I don't necessarily believe that the creation account appears to be Hebrew poetry because it's Hebrew poetry. I think structural poetry exists in Hebrew because it comes from God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
That the writings about God don't take on a poetic nature because they're talking about God. The language is poetic inherently because of the Hebrew relationship with God. You understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I should get the camera and go, yes.
No, I won't do that. Anyway, so wow, we went really deep in that, didn't we?
But it seems like it's, I don't know, I won't say it because it seems reaching.
Oh, come on, reach. Nobody's watching.
So, like, man fell, and man fell fast when you look at the structure of the timeline of the Bible. But God had a way out. Our society is falling fast, and God knew it would. God knew how man would just fall apart.
Yeah, I think that's
and
true.
He's always had a plan of how it would all finish. And Revelation shows us that of, okay, here's this. Now, okay, so my mind, when you talked about chiasms, kind of went to when you would try to teach me about coding. And if you had like a command that said center, you had to have an opposing command that said uncenter.
That's exactly right. Yeah, it's so God thinks in HTML. No. Or XML or no, but I mean, again, that
there was an order to it.
Yeah. For a begin, you got to have an end.
Yeah.
If you're doing coding, your blocks gradually indent, and as you indent, you have to come out
back
again. Yeah, that's exactly what a chiastic structure is, or what chiasm is. It's exactly what it is. So,
yay!
Gold star for you.
Woo!
If I had a gold star graphic, I'd put it up, but I don't.
Give me a high five.
All right.
Thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
That was kind of a deep one today.
It was, but I think we did good.
We did it.
We did it.
Woo-hoo. We really appreciate all of your all support. Don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon to be notified of future videos and pop-ups that come through our YouTube channel.
Right. Like if we ever decide to do this live thing again, which...
We'll have to get a new camera.
Yeah, this camera is different than the other camera, and the whole setup. We're not really set up to do live. I set things up. I think we're getting to the point where things are looking pretty good for the recorded stuff, but
yeah,
live requires a little bit more
kicking the kids off the computers. Hey, we're going to go live all day.
Hey kids, if you want dinner, get off the computers.
And go make it.
Go.
No,
Anyway.
we're having take 2 of birthday dinner tonight because, twins, they have their own choices. Thomas got dinner. Now it's Benjamin's. Well, everybody got dinner, but we made Thomas's choice yesterday and Benjamin's choice tonight. So, got to go make the food.
So,
thanks always.
Thank you for joining us.
Be sure to let us know if there are any prayer requests. We can be praying with you. Extra voices being heard on your behalf. And check out more things later.
Hey, Frank.
Hey, Frank.
You're still on here.
Yay.
Do you recognize the room? Didn't you help me paint this room?
He did.
I think you did.
He did. One of 2 rooms you helped paint while I was pregnant both times. Yes, this is the, yeah. You helped paint this room.
I can't believe he's still on. Thanks for sticking around with us, Frank, man.
Yeah.
That was cool. I miss you, man. I gotta go. No. Anyway, thanks again for joining us. I'm Seth.
I'm Tammy.
And remember, he's God.
And we're not.
And we're not. So God bless, and we will hopefully catch you tomorrow. Thanks.